Welcome back to the London Undercover LGBT special. In part 1, we heard from groups struggling to be accepted. Next, we highlight how a failure to understand and engage with LGBT communities can have many consequences.
We see the highest prevalence of HIV in the country amongst men in London. Perhaps as many as 1 in 8 gay or bisexual men are living with HIV. There's a lowering in the level of people's awareness because they haven't had those campaigns that certainly I remember from the late 80s and early 90s.
I really think that what needs to matter is for it to be made public knowledge, for there to be campaigns to say exactly what it is. How do you stay safe? And if you aren't, how do you accept help?
What we do perhaps need is some interventions which are targeted towards particular communities who are most at risk, so that we're being as inclusive as we can with that. Another population that's affected disproportionately by HIV are trans people. We need to understand the issues that are affecting them. One of the services that we're involved with is called Clinic Q, and it's a sexual health and wellbeing service that's run by and for trans people. I'm really trying to raise the awareness of the issues that are there.
That's where I'm coming from, because I sort of think that the whole public needs to know what HIV is. While there needs to be particular services if you need to access it, the knowledge needs to be available to everyone.
I'm not talking about gay sex to shock or cause stress. I'm talking about it because no one else is. Alan Carr isn't. Graham Norton isn't. Paul O'Grady isn't. Even Tom Daley isn't. I think the stigma is rife, particularly on gay dating apps. There are users who describe HIV-positive men as dirty, or they say they only want to meet clean guys. If you are HIV-positive and you see that on a user's profile of someone referring to you as unclean, then it's going to have a detrimental effect on your self-worth.
I was diagnosed just over 18 years ago now. Obviously, when I was diagnosed, I didn't realise quite how long I was going to live. I thought that I would perhaps live for another 20 years, so I'm coming close to reaching that target already. The stigma is still very much an issue. Because I'm open about my HIV status, I find that I still encounter it on a fairly regular basis. About once a month, someone will send me a message via Twitter or something like that, saying something along the lines of, "Why don't you hurry up and die?" I made the decision some years ago that I was going to talk about it. I felt like I was coming out of the closet. I felt like I was coming out of the viral closet. HIV remains a very serious health challenge, particularly for gay and bisexual men, and for trans women and trans men who identify as gay. Last year, just over half of the new diagnoses in the UK were amongst gay and bisexual men.
And try telling that to the 2 20-year-old boys I interviewed last week who both have HIV, because they're not told about gay sex in schools, and they're not told about transmission, and the condom, they are told, is there to stop pregnancy.
When people hear MTV, they think of music and popular culture. However, the MTV Staying Alive Foundation works at preventing HIV across the globe and dispelling the stigma.
Any organisation that is working in HIV, LGBT is front and centre of all of the issues in that. The gay community in London is definitely seeing an increase in HIV infection. I think 6 to 7 gay men are tested positive every single day in London, and for me I find those statistics shocking. And over the summer I was in Kisumu in Kenya, and we work with an LGBT group, and they did some moonlight testing, and they tested 42 men and 36% tested positive that night. So the numbers are smaller in London, but in a city, you know, the capital city of the UK, where we have good education, good access to condoms, good access to testing, and there should be a lack of stigma and discrimination, that we should be seeing those numbers falling, and actually we're seeing them increase.
We now have a drug that many regard as a miracle. It can prevent HIV infection, it's highly effective, and there are little or no side effects.
The most important thing about HIV and LGBT community in London for me today is PrEP. PrEP is really exciting. It has the potential to prevent HIV, and I think that the LGBT community needs to be really campaigning with the government to make sure that they can access it.
Now, PrEP is cost effective and it's very effective at stopping HIV infections. And what we've seen in other countries that have adopted it is we've seen real impact on the number of people who are being diagnosed with HIV. We've seen those diagnoses drop, and that's an amazing thing. Right now, we have all the tools that we need to put an end to new HIV infections, and I think this is an opportunity that must be seized. People living with HIV are in your communities. We are your brothers, we are your sons, we are your fathers, we are your sisters, we are your work colleagues, we are the people who you go to church with, we are the people who are standing next to you in the shop. When people subject us to your hatred, to your ignorance, to your disregard, it does nothing to improve our health. It does nothing to improve your health, and does nothing to improve the health or the well-being of the community around you.